Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, what did the Kaiser roll say to the French baguette? Gluten Tag! Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Quartermaster General 1914 from Ares Games. Hello everybody, we'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out, please subscribe, and now, back to the review. In Quartermaster General 1914, 2 to 5 players take on the various belligerent powers of World War I as they attempt to dominate Europe. One player takes on the role of Germany, while another takes on the role of both Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. For the Allies, one player takes on the role of Russia, while one player takes on the role of France and Italy, and the last player takes on the role of the UK and the United States. Now, the game board is a map of Europe. Of course, you have the various belligerent nations divided up into different sections on the board. They each have their capital cities, which is going to be very important for maintaining supply. You also kind of have a turn track at the bottom. You have a score track around the periphery. And you also have the turn order. In this game, turn order goes Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire go first, then Russia, then Germany, then France and Italy, and finally UK and US. Now, each player is going to have their own deck of cards for their faction, and you're also going to have a very limited number of kind of army units, meeples, and naval units as well. Now, the game is very card-driven. The cards are played in an unusual way and in different ways throughout the game, but essentially you have various steps that you go through on your turn. Now, each player will have a hand of 7 cards. Now, during your turn, there's different steps you're going to take. For instance, the very first step you're going to take is the kind of draft step. What you can do is you can discard any 2 of your cards, and then you can go ahead and look through your deck and try to find a build army or build navy card. You can put that in your hand and reshuffle your deck. Now, after you've drafted, or if you elect not to, you can go ahead and play a card from your hand. Now, the cards function in different ways. For instance, you can go ahead and play a card to engage in economic warfare, which is going to target your other players' cards, make them discard cards. You can go ahead and engage in a battle, essentially play a card to launch a battle, and more on battles later. You can go ahead and play a build army or build navy card, and you can build any army or navy in any place that is in supply that is adjacent to one of your units. You can also play a status card. Status cards are kind of like ongoing, perpetual bonuses that you will get through the game as long as that status card is out in front of you face up. And there are also event cards that you can play that may have some bonuses for you or may hurt your enemies. Next, you have the attrition step. Now, during the attrition step, you're going to have prepared cards, and I'll discuss more about prepared cards in a moment. They are cards face down in front of you. You can go ahead and kind of discard one of those face down prepared cards and look at its attrition ability. Its attrition ability, again, typically is going to attack other players' cards, but there may be other things there as well. You play that, and again, you hurt your enemies. Next, you have the prepare step. Now, you can take a single card from your hand and you place it face down in front of you. Now, that card is going to have an icon at the bottom. And that icon, again, could be some kind of an attrition icon, something that's going to attack your enemy's cards or what have you. But it could be an advance or a double advance icon, or it could be a defense or a double defense icon. These are going to help you in battle. But some of those cards may say they can only be used in certain locations on the board. Finally, you have the draw step. You draw your hand back up to 7 cards. It's possible you can't have more than 7 cards during the game, but you always draw your hand size back up to 7 at the end of your turn. Now, again, going back to the play step and looking at combat. How combat works is when you go ahead and you play a card, it's going to have, a land battle or a naval battle. It'll have kind of the advance symbol. That acts as kind of one attack point. So you play that card against whomever you're attempting to attack. Now, assuming you're attacking a single player, they then would have to play a defensive card to match it. If it's even, it's a wash. And then the person who attacked would have to play another card in order to overcome their defense. Then they can play more defensive cards. But these cards that they're playing are not coming from the hand. They're coming from your prepared section. So you have to flip them over to show that you are prepared for that. You're prepared to sustain an attack, or you're prepared to defend against attack. But again, some of those cards that you prepared may only be good in certain areas on the board. Critically, too, there are some difficult terrain areas on the board. If you attack into any one of these, you have to discard an additional card in order to let you do that. Now, you can ever only have one army in a space, but your allies can also share that space. So if you're both attacked, you can each play those defensive prepared cards in order to maintain your hold on that territory. Now, essentially, as you are doing these things, as you are playing those cards, as you are preparing those cards, as you're using them and discarding them, your ability to maintain the war is being sapped away, because those cards don't come back. There may be a few card abilities that allow something like that here and there, but generally those cards, once they're played, once they're discarded, do not come back into the game. And since you're playing through your deck, you're exhausting your possibilities every time you play it. You've only got so many build armies and build navy cards. You've only got so many sustain the attack cards or defensive cards, only so many status cards. So you are desperately trying to play those cards as best you can, as to maximize their effectiveness, because they won't last forever. Now, the game can last up to 17 turns, and every 3 or 4 turns or whatever, you're going to have a scoring phase. Now, around the board are kind of victory cities or victory locations. They're printed on the board, and some card effects may place more, have you add tokens to create more of these victory cities. So essentially, each side is going to go up and add up the total number of victory cities they have, the central powers and the allies. And they're going to see how many victory points each side has at that time. So players are going around and around. They are drafting cards. They are playing cards for attack. They are playing cards for their status abilities or playing cards for attrition. They are playing cards for the events. They are going ahead and preparing cards for either attacks or defense later, or for attrition warfare later. They are engaging in all of these things and then drawing their cards up back at the end of their turn. They're each going through this, attacking each other, defending, and trying to do the best job they can and getting the enemy to expend as many cards as they can. Now, if at ever any one of those scoring points, one side or the other has 12 more points than the other faction, it's a sudden death victory. They win immediately. Otherwise, if you get to the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. Quartermaster General, 1914. So Quartermaster General, this is a game that I have heard about for years. And it's a game I've always wanted to play. And every time I talk about kind of war games, and particularly World War I always get people say, have you played Quartermaster General? Have you played Quartermaster General? And I hadn't. And it's one of those things that I always kind of felt I had. And I was just kind of on Amazon not too long ago when I saw it, and it looked like a good price. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get it. So I went ahead and I bought it. And my friend Nate here, he was excited because he'd heard good things. So we went over there. We played it. We played the full 5 players there. And so what I found, what my impressions of the game were, is first of all, this is a game that really simulates the logistics of war. And this is, of course, kind of how it's presented, right? It's a game that presents the logistics of war. Meaning warfare is about preparation. Modern warfare is about preparation. It's about being able to logistically sustain, to supply an attack and a defense. It's also about knocking out your opponent's economic resources, in this case the cards themselves. So it does a very good job then of, it's less about kind of operational maneuvering or tactical battles. It's really about kind of the strategic level of how do you manage economically a war. And not just economically, but logistically. How do you manage that war? And it does it, I think, very well. Very well. Where the cards, they almost act as a currency, right? They're your life, they're your hit points in a way. It's not like that explicitly, but that's the way it feels. And every time you play cards, you're thinking, ugh. And indeed, a lot of the players, the cards aren't going to last the full 17 rounds. You'll get to the point where you just don't have cards to play, and you just kind of have to suck it up and bear it. So that's very interesting. That's a very cool way to play the game, I think. I also really liked how the cards themselves give you choices. How do you want to play these cards? You know, I can play this status card, which is a really good ongoing, perpetual ability here. But boy, I need those. I need to prepare some defense, and this has got like a double defense. That's really going to help me in defense, or in attack, in sustaining the attack. And or I want to play it for the event. Or this attrition card is really good. I want to play it now, but I could probably bank it, and I'll get a less cool ability if I play it during the attrition step. But it's still something. And I might bluff my enemies into thinking I've got more cards prepared that can help in attacks and defense than I actually have. So the really good choices from that point of view, from that perspective. I really, really like that a lot. Now, we just played the one game, and in the game I was playing, I was Germany. And Kim was Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. Jenny was France, UK. Nate was Russia, and Mike was... No, pardon me. Jenny was France and Italy, and Mike was UK, US. And as we're playing it, I'm really digging it. And I got a status card out there that let me prepare a card at the beginning of my turn, and then I got my regular prepare. So I could prepare a lot of cards. So I was pretty, you're Germany, right? You're kind of a military behemoth for a lot of that game. But they kind of felt, that is to say, my friends playing the Central Powers kind of felt they didn't have a lot to do, and they were very frustrated. Now, I would think frustration is a huge part of this game. And there's some games that's what it's about. There's almost a lot of take that in this game, right? And frustration is a fact of war, right? But it's also very, very interesting way it's played here, in my opinion. They thought it really limited them. They thought it really kind of hampered what they wanted to do. They were reacting more than they were acting. And, I can see their point. And again, having not played those countries, I can appreciate that. But for me, I kind of felt like I really liked this game. I really had a lot of fun with this game. Kim, she liked it. She said it was fun, but even she felt like she wasn't doing a lot to contribute to victory. So I don't know if it was just me. I don't know if it was the country I was playing, but I really liked it. My friends, less so. In fact, I don't think any of the people that played the Allies were interested in playing again. Kim said she wanted to play it again, but I don't know if my other friends said they were interested. So maybe it's one I got to check out again from that perspective. But to me, just the way the cards work and the way it simulates logistics was fantastic. I thought it was really, really great. But let's go ahead and hear what Mike has to say about it.
The fact that Cody is a history professor of military history makes him extremely biased in favor of this game.
Oh, Mike. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I got to go with my gut. And despite what my friend said here, I'm going to recommend this game because I had a crap ton of fun with it. I think it is a very smart and interesting game. It's a wonderful way to manage, to do hand management that simulates that logistical question in this war. I know they got the World War II version. Maybe I'll play that at some time. But I really, really liked this quite a bit. So, recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Quartermaster General 1914 is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check it out, please subscribe, and please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot as well. Ladies and gentlemen, why was World War I so short? Because they were Russian. Why was World War II so long? Because they were Stalin.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
I played the Build the Army, and this was there for attrition.
So you're just doing the bottom part, right?
Oh, yeah.
You
Sorry, two. You
bottom.
only use two. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. You only use two. And then Oh, it was an honest mistake.